Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy, Nate Weitzer, Hoodie Nate on the East Coast. And it's Thursday, and we've got a 6-game slate here in the NBA for you guys to choose from. In this one, we're taking a look at an Eastern Conference battle. Brooklyn playing host to Boston, obviously sans KD. We'll take a look at what that means in this one. Also got another game video up for you and our player props as we are doing each and every weekday this season. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where we put up all the stuff we're talking about here and more. And you can use our odds finder tool over there. That's where we have all of, you can use that to go ahead and check out all the offerings from U.S. sportsbooks this season. Make sure you're getting the best juice on all those NBA bets. Nate, let's get into this little 6-game slate here and then talk Nets and C's.
Yeah, I like this slate, though. I particularly like this game because, of course, we're going to talk about the Celtics winning, but we'll get into that in a second. We got the Thunder plus 10 at the Sixers. That should be a spicy one. Love the feisty Thunder. Celtics are minus 3 at the Nets, who, of course, will be out without Kevin Durant for about a month now. Bucks are plus 4 at Miami. That opened closer to a pick'em, but Miami gaining some steam. The Bucks are on a back-to-back. I think people are sniffing somebody resting here for Milwaukee. The Hornets still in Toronto. They're plus 8 after losing by 12 2 nights ago in Toronto. The other game we break down, Dallas minus 3 at the Lake Show. Totals at 236 there. And then the Cavs are minus 3 at Portland. Technically, Damian Lillard questionable for that one. So keep an eye on the struggling Blazers. Look, I mean, we talk a lot about stars out, bets up. And especially in those first couple games, you know, the ball's going to be moving. They might be playing better. Don't underestimate the supporting cast. This is not the case with Kevin Durant. Like, he is top 3 in the MVP conversation. Absolutely no discussion about it. If you're just watching the games and understanding the importance to their team, more of an MVP than Tatum because Jaylen Brown and Tatum are really co-MVPs. And of course the Celtics with both their guys, the Nets without KD. I mean, just during this 18-2 stretch, how responsible is he for that success? Well, he's averaging 30, shooting basically 60, 40, 95 from the floor, 125 offensive rating. He was at plus 164 in those 20 games when he was out there. You look on the season, they're 11.5 points better per 100 possessions with Durant on the floor. Defensively, too. Like, this is the stuff that the average fan might not look at as much, but defensively allowing 4% more offensive rebounds, allowing the opposition to shoot a full percentage higher effective field goal, forcing turnovers on 2% fewer possessions. Without KD since January last year, they're 9-19. They have just a 113 offensive rating, shooting 33% from deep, 22 assists per game. It's very, very low. So they're able to squeak out a low-scoring win in Miami on Monday. They do have a rest advantage here, but I still love the Celtics. I mean, they have not been bothered at all by rest disadvantages here, and even back-to-backs. They're 6-0 straight up. They're 5-1 against the spread on back-to-backs, averaging 12.5 points per victory. And they rested Rob Williams and Marcus Smart, I believe, last night against the Pels. Still, by the way, dominated the boards without those guys. And still got the Jays, the co-MVPs, I said, 72 points on nearly 60% field goal shooting to just, make quick work of the Pels. I mean, they still played 35 minutes, but like I said, the back-to-back has not bothered this team right now. They get up for this game. That's why, I often worry about the Celtics on the road and often worry about them against non-conference games on the road, though, that particularly because they will come out flat, but they've won 5 of their last 6 road games against Eastern Conference teams, including in Brooklyn. And, of course, they get up for this matchup. Of course, they get up to beat Kyrie, the guy who just, kind of spit on them on his way out of town a couple of years ago and, everything else that goes along with him. And now he's the leader of this team. They have 8 straight wins over Brooklyn. That includes 4 straight in the playoffs, of course. KD has played in the last 6 of those. Brooklyn is scoring just 108 with KD out there. They've been shooting 41.5% from the 3-point line which has not continued recently and has not been the trend when KD's out. The shot quality just falls off a cliff. So, I mean, unless like Seth Curry goes nuts, I don't know who like the next man up, the guy you expect to fill this massive void is. And guys like Seth Curry, even TJ Warren, they're absolute liabilities on the other end of the floor. Who, the Celtics have been hunting these matchups. They're so deep, they're so well coached and understand how to get their two stars on the weakest defender. I just have a real hard time imagining the Celtics don't win here. So -3 seems fine to me.
Yeah, you said a lot of stuff about the C's winning, and I agree. I mean, the only thing that I would caution against, because this is a podcast that talks about stars out, bets up, is the first game. It's the first game without the star that you usually see some form of like rally around, whatever, like team spirit or strength in numbers and next man up and all that kind of stuff. And then, you're at home against a team that has struggled a bit more on the road anyway, obviously than more so than at home. Although they've kind of gotten that ship righted since that losing streak, where the Warriors sort of stole their lunch in that one. But the main point again in this matchup is just how are you going to stop the Celtics, and are they going to stop themselves with the way that they're, if they're not shooting well from deep. And I would say over the course of their last 10 games, sort of, since they sort of picked things up from that really that rough outing against the Warriors that started a slight backslide, like it was really just, I think it was like a shock is what really caused that sort of that downturn, because even when they're not making threes in their last 10 games, they're still winning. So they don't need to shoot 38% from deep anymore in order to make sure that they're winning games, as they've gotten to the free throw a bunch more in their last 10, and they've had a bunch more actually, interestingly enough, not necessarily points in the paint, but they've had more points in the paint than they were scoring essentially. Maybe Rob Will a bit to do with that, but they're finding other ways to score and sort of transitioning to the type of team that has Robert Williams back in the starting lineup as well, which is where I believe he's supposed to play tonight after you, like you said, he sat on a back-to-back, the front end. So I would feel pretty good about that, believing in what they've sort of done as of late, which is protect the paint a bit more and get a few more paint points. And now they're just back into sort of the top half of the league, because they were in the bottom half in those important categories as well. And that just really sort of buffers against the need for them to make, 23 pointers as a team, essentially, to win a game. They can do it in other ways. The Nets and what they can do to stop the Celtics, it's just been a bad matchup since basically forever at this point. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with what they're going to miss from KD, which is defense, rebounding and defense. And it's those defensive rebounds that scare me in terms of what the Celtics are going to be able to do if they are able to crash the offensive boards with Jalen, with Grant Williams, and obviously with Robert Williams and Al Horford. So that means you're going to see a lot more Royce O'Neal, Nick Claxton, and Ben Simmons, which means now you don't have any shooting. So if two of those guys are on the floor, I mean, Royce O'Neal, love the guy, actually. I shouldn't really talk shit on him. He's been hitting open threes in the last roughly 5 games or so, but it's not something that you want to rely on as a form of offense, right? Royce O'Neal's playing 37 minutes so that he can guard your team's best wing player or versatile big, and really handle all the peripherals, hit the open three from the corner when he's available. But you're going to see a lot more Ben Simmons and even Royce O'Neal, closer to 40 minutes than even these guys have been playing, which is kind of why I like both of them in player props as well. Everything I looked at for this game, obviously Seth Curry and Joe Harris are going to have to play more than they've been playing, but they've also got to shoot way better than they've been shooting, and they're still both being hobbled by injuries consistently in a way that, I don't know. I mean, TJ Warren, love him coming back as well. If it's sort of close to bubble TJ Warren at all, then you've got some sort of supplementary scoring for KD being out. But like you said, you don't make up for KD being out. So my main point is, the only reason I'm not betting on this game with my own money tonight is because of that weird fear and of the phenomenon of first game with the star out and everybody just sort of goes bonkers, and scoring comes from places you didn't expect, and Nick Claxton is tearing up the boards with Ben Simmons, and it just scares me from that standpoint. But I think there's other ways to bet this game specifically, like I said, and we'll talk about in player props some of the stuff for those reserves or the guys on the Nets that are going to have to make up for the loss of KD on defense.
Yeah, I don't see it. The Nets have been so bad scoring in other areas other than like the mid-range and in the paint. They're number one in effective field goal percentage. KD leads every perimeter player in true shooting. He's higher than Steph Curry in true shooting. Like, he absolutely just carries their offense. I mean, maybe if you're looking for another Kyrie 40 burger, which he did in a loss against Boston for, last March, 2 seasons ago. And since then, in 3 meetings, 18 points per game on a 109 rating. Yeah. Certainly, if Marcus Smart plays, I mean, you've also got Derek White and Brogdon to hound him. It's just so much more strength in numbers for Boston. I mean, the Nets are 30th in rebounding with KD out there being their second best rebounder. Claxton is dealing with a shoulder injury, by the way. And, I mean, it physically does not really have the same advantage if Rob Will's out there. And, I mean, down the stretch, the Nets just really struggling to score. I mean, they kind of played. I mean, they had to finish that Miami game without KD, and they had 36 points in the second half. Last time they faced Boston, they had 42. I mean, the under definitely seems like it's in play here because you're so worried about the Nets offense, but I'm a little worried that the Celtics get over 120 and blow them out because defensively, the Nets are most vulnerable on the three-point line, and they're giving up 39% in their last 3 here. And the Celtics, could just start raining down threes. The Nets have kind of dared. You say it's a bad matchup because they like daring guys like Grant Williams to shoot threes, and we just saw how that went the last couple games for the Celtics opponents. I mean the C's are back on their good bullshit here, and they're looking good in those last 4 games.
And Jason Tatum, too, obviously has looked incredible. I know Jaylen Brown actually did all the scoring, most of the scoring. But like you were saying yesterday, Tatum's a consistent triple-double threat right now as he got pretty close to it last night. And if it comes tit for tat at the end of the game and Kyrie's your only option at that point, just sell out on him. And I think you'll probably feel a lot better about the Celtics defense able to stop this Nets offense, like you said. I do expect Kyrie to come out and give us something here and give us a show and put up some points for sure. But like you said, he can still drop 40, and the C's could easily win by 3 in that scenario still. So, and
then we get Mavs -3 as well at the Lake Show. Total around 235 or 236 right now, and the Lakers on a little bit of extra rest here. I mean, they had 2 days off before this one, and then they get 2 more days off before facing the Sixers. And we talk about a veteran team loving that extra rest and it resulting in some wins for them. I think really the biggest trend we've seen lately is extra rest resulting in the Lakers actually being able to play some defense and going under. They've been going under with a rest disadvantage in 5 of their 6 games this season by an average of 12 points per game. That's with 2+ days off. 8-4 to the under with a rest advantage. You look at Dallas on the other side, they do go over more when they're on shorter rest. So their defense does not step up. But, I mean, they've lost 3 of their last 4. Of course, they do go under on the road. They've gone under in 6 of their last 8 on the road, playing at a snail's pace once again, 94. It's the second slowest in that span. And they've gone under in 3 of their last 4 after a loss. So I think they need to get back to it in terms of limiting paint points, etc. You look at how the Lakers need to score, right? Is get out in transition, score in the paint. I mean, they can't score from 3 right now, and they're going to be without Lonnie Walker and Austin Reeves again. Kendrick Nunn's a complete wild card at this point. He's basically had 2 games where he's produced. They're getting bench points mostly because Westbrook, but I don't know about the supporting cast around LeBron here, and Dallas has been getting back. They're number 2 in transition D in their last 3. They do give up more paint points on the road. They do give up more 3 points, higher 3-point percentage on the road. But I just don't really trust that the Lakers' offense is going to be that efficient. It's really like a clash of pace here, right? I mean, the Lakers like to play at like 103 at home. The Mavs like to play at about 93 on the road. So we'll see where it lands. But 236 is pretty high. When you have Luka out there, he is able to dictate some pace. He has dominated the Lakers in his last 2 meetings, one without LeBron, but 150 offensive rating and a +45 plus minus. And that second unit when these teams played on Christmas for the Lakers was not very impressive. I mean, Westbrook himself, the leader of that, posted a -30. So it kind of got out of hand. They were not scoring efficiently without LeBron on the floor. I don't know if they're going to be able to maintain a good pace there. And as always, the key is, can you limit the 3-point shot for Dallas? And the Lakers are actually 5th in 3-point defense at home. So that's, I think, the strongest argument here, why we won't get an offensive explosion.
Yeah, I mean, the question for the Lakers and all their matchups with the Mavs is who the hell is guarding Luka, and what do you do with him? And really, who is guarding Luka is a little bit less relevant than like who they have down low to meet him when he does use his body to get 5 feet from the basket. And at that point, you're pretty much toast no matter who's there, but at least he was thinking about it twice when he had to consider Anthony Davis standing in the paint at some point, and that's just not the case anymore. So that's why, I mean, I'm still not worried about an over there. In fact, I'd like an under even more, knowing that the way that Luka is going to control this game is how he always controls a game. And really, it's really just do what you want, play off of that. And once you get, lean your shoulder into somebody, roughly 15 feet from the basket, maybe you're driving towards the hoop, he has a number of decisions to make at that point. He's going to either kick it out to 3, or he's going to do, basically shimmy and get a bucket. So he's just going to be doing that the entire game at a pretty slow pace, I would imagine, which really makes me like under 235, 236 if you can find it. It opened at about 233. So, I mean, I like the fact that it's been bet up, but I would also imagine it's going to hover and maybe bet down a point or two here or there if people are following a similar train of thought to what we have here. Mostly, that those fast break points. That was one of my main points as well for why you like the under here. Dallas getting back, not only in their last 3, just on the season, they are able to limit fast break points from the other team to the tune of the 4th lowest, the 4th least allowed, right, in terms of fast break points. So neither of these teams are impressive down low. The Lakers, while they have in their last 10, are 4th in the league in terms of the amount of points in the paint that they're scoring right now, about 56. That's all also transition points. A huge bulk of those are layups in transition, and nobody outside of Russ and LeBron is getting to the basket at this point. Like you said, Kendrick Nunn kind of a complete wild card, and they're definitely running out of wing scoring after Austin Reeves and Lonnie Walker are both unavailable in this one. Schroeder has been playing a lot better with that second unit as well, or first unit, depending on if LeBron is playing or not. But it's still, not necessarily enough to overcome a Mavs bench unit that, as you talked about a little bit, has been playing really well on defense, at least as well. Even though the Lakers are getting those bench points because of Westbrook, he's also giving them bench points while he's playing, 30 minutes a game like a starter would. So that's a huge inflation there as well. The only overs that you've seen from LeBron and team is versus teams like Atlanta, a Miami team that was playing without many of its stars and sort of got surprised by a LeBron-less Lakers team as well, I believe. So everything that we've been seeing from both these teams leads to under. I guess because it's the Lakers at home, this is sitting at over 230, that 235, 236. But rather than have to rely on, the Mavs to come through on the road, which I hate doing, I would much prefer to just go ahead and bet on these Lakers. I do like the idea of the Lakers coming out strong in the first half as well, and having a little bit more chutzpah than the Mavs, the way that they did in this last game. They dominated the first 2 quarters in that first half in that last game in December, and then just fell apart completely in the third quarter, and the Mavs didn't even really need to care about the fourth quarter. So that's also why you saw a pretty big over in that game, and that actually barely got over the total that we have here at 236, and it needed two 70-point quarters in a row in the second half to get over that, by the way, which is why that game even got to 239. So I think you do feel pretty good about this one staying, under 235, barring some absolutely unforeseen explosion that like the anomaly that happened last time.
Yeah, I mean, last time on Christmas, right, the Lakers were in it for sure, and it looked like definitely going under, but then the Mavs able to pull away a little bit at the end. I don't think that necessarily happens again. I think, I'd rather have the underdog. I'd rather have the Lakers at +7 and the total up to 240 if you want to tease it or you want to use another game. Because, I think that Dallas hit some sort of funk here when they got stomped by the Celtics, and I don't know if they're going to get right on the road here. It's a Stockholm Road splits thing, and recently, their only overs on the road are like against the Spurs, against the Hornets, which did not get over 230 even. And so a Spurs team that really shares the ball and distributes it is a lot different than a Lakers team that's, orbits around LeBron or Westbrook, depending which unit's out there. And that's why they were able to keep it low scoring on Christmas. And That's probably why they'll be able to limit them again. I'm not sure who benefits most from a low scoring game, but if you have the Lakers at +7, it's hard to imagine them losing badly and it also going under.
Yeah, I mean, low scoring game, Lakers being able to hang, yeah, all that. I would not want to bet the Mavs to have to cover too big of a spread and also include that under in there. If anything, like I said, I could see the Mavs having to make a comeback in this one as they have on the road in the way that they've won lately. In which case, even in that sense, I don't think that this one gets to a pace that the Lakers want it to, and definitely not the defensive efficiency that they'd be hoping for by getting out in the transition, which I think is really one of the main key thing. The key aspect of this game is the Mavs getting back. So that definitely leads us to under 236. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into your first NBA play a prop for tonight, Mr. James Harden.
Yeah, my props are linked to a degree in that Thunder-Sixers game. I am hoping for a close game. I think the Thunder, when they're +10, are always dangerous. Might just fuck around and win this game. You never know with them. But Harden at 37.5 points, rebounds, assists. As long as it's close, I feel good about that. I mean, he just had a triple-double in 26 minutes against Detroit. Second consecutive triple-double, which, by the way, is +700 at DK, regardless of the winner, versus FanDuel, you have to go +680 for the triple-double in a win. Anyway, Harden been diming up, obviously, since he came back from that injury. 12 assists per game and shooting 45, 40, 82%, which is a huge difference from where he was the last couple seasons, a little bit out of shape, whatever, taking bad shot selection. And still, in his last 3 against OKC, 22 points, nearly 8 rebounds, and 11 assists with high usage rate. In his last 9, I mean, the numbers are consistent: 22, 7, 12 assists, only 25% usage rate. Barely had to shoot against Detroit. But like I said, I think this will be a closer game with the Thunder coming to play, with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being my other pick here in player props, going over after we went under. OKC does give up the 4th most rebounds to shooting guards. They play at a very fast pace. So I think bundle all the stats together is the way to get the best odds here, because there's a chance Harden goes under 20.5 points where his prop is at, but he can easily get double-digit assists.
Yeah, easily triple-double watch for Harden pretty much every night right now, since he sort of fell into that role of accepting that, he's not the number 1 scorer on this team. And in fact, if he could just go ahead and feel free to be the number 3 scorer on the team and get 12 to 15 assists in each game, I think the 76ers will take that all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. And this is gonna be a fun matchup. The Thunder are now 11-5 covering as away dogs this season. So 10 points is a lot for a team that definitely hangs tough when they're faced with a challenge on the road like this one. Philly looks like one of the best teams in the league right now. Obviously, I mean, just dropped 147 on Detroit or whatever. So plenty of points, I think, to be expected in this one. In which case, Harden will be chipping in for sure on a lot of those, as he's got probably the highest percentage of points scored or assisted on his team this season of any player. So I love taking Harden. We haven't talked about him enough, to be honest, especially in the last few weeks, as he's been on a complete tear. So I'm going to the game that we talked about, the Nets and the Celtics, and I hinted that Ben Simmons, maybe some Royce O'Neal would be in here. I think Ben Simmons is a good start. Look, he's needed. It's time to show up, specifically on the defensive end and getting defensive rebounds. So I really like him to get rebounds tonight. It's 7.5. If you want over that, it's -120 on DK. But if you take the points as well, it's at 8.5, which is a bit high considering he's averaging 7 points a game in his last 10. It's a situation where I think you've got to expect 2 to 3 more points for each of these players. Ben Simmons and Royce O'Neal included, another guy I would talk about who's at about a different prop there. But finishing Ben Simmons 17 points and rebounds combined, I'd like getting a little bit better juice there. It is his first game versus Boston with this Nets team, but when he did play them with Philly, we're talking about 17 points a game, 7 boards, 7 assists. Slightly different Ben Simmons, but he needs to play a little bit more like a star versus a role player with KD out. And then his last 4 at home where they're playing, 8 points, 8 assists, and about 7 boards, which gets you over all those props as well. And really, it's about the fact that the uptick in stats that I expect is also heavily based on minutes. He only played 29 minutes last game. There's no way he's playing less than 35, 36 minutes tonight. And as a result, I think the usage, even at 15%, is going to be up a little bit as he's going to be getting some offensive rebounds. The Celtics, not a good rebounding team, allow the 7th most rebounds on the road and a 23rd in terms of their transition D on the road, which is obviously also good for Simmons to get those defensive rebounds and push. So, the Celtics really do a solid job of limiting assists, which is why I don't love adding that in there for Ben, who's gone under 5 assists a few times in his last 10 games. And it's up all the way up for like at 7.5, 8.5 for him, depending on where you find it. So I'm happy to leave those out and go points and rebounds, or just rebounds, or honestly just points at 8.5, because I do think just a couple more shot attempts for him tonight should lead to about 10 points.
Yeah, not to correct your math, but 8 points per game and 7 rebounds per game the last 4 does not get you over this prop. But that's exactly the point. He only played 23 minutes and had a 15% usage rate in those 4 games. Nets obviously are going to need more from him with Durant out. We're going to need more from Royce O'Neal too. But, I mean, O'Neal is more of a guy that really benefits from open looks when the defense collapses on Kyrie and KD. And Simmons really should just be kind of forcing the issue as the Nets kind of focus more on our half-court offense is not going to be as good, so let's push the ball. And so, yeah, I think he will be aggressive in transition here at home. So I already said I'm going over on SGA. It's 28.5 points after we successfully and scarily went under at 29.5 in his last matchup against Miami. And you could say he struggled against Philly as well. I mean, he hasn't actually played at Philadelphia with fans since he joined the Thunder. The matchup has not really happened. They did play at home against the Sixers and got blown out. He only had 14 points in December. That was without Maxey and Harden playing, though. Big difference, I think, in the defense you're seeing from Melton and Milton versus Maxey and Harden, who have a 122 and 117 defensive rating, respectively, this month. Philly now allowing the 6th most points to shooting guards in the last 2 weeks since they got both those guys back. He did face he faced Maxey and Seth Curry as a starting backcourt last season and went for 29, 8, and 6. Did SGA. And, I mean, we know what he does. On the road especially, 31 points per game, 34% usage rate. There's no way this is going to be a close game without SGA cooking. And I think the way the Sixers are cooking on offense, we will see plenty of stats coming back and forth. Harden and SGA hopefully, kind of playing that Matador D to let each other get their stats.
Yeah, almost your turn, my turn in the sense of just not even teammates, just opposite opponents there. I like that as well. Like we said, if the Thunder are going to come along and cover in this one, this is going to be much less of a slobber knocker than that Miami game that they played, even though that one was pretty wide open as well. I think there's going to be ample opportunity for SGA to get his tonight. And I like your thinking of both these. It's really fun. Maybe find both players to get a certain stat. Kind of fun bonus in there as well. A lot of offerings, but fun way to play that game, and a game that I'm definitely going to be watching as well. So I'm going to close things out with Mr. Plumlee here on the Hornets, a guy we definitely have not talked about this year, but is near and dear to both our hearts as I dropped him in fantasy. You picked him up, and he's having a killer monster year for the Hornets. 22.5 points and rebounds for him is -1. I mean, look, he's filling up stats, Nate. He's getting like 4 or 5 assists a game. At any rate, monster might be a little bit extreme, but 22.5 points and rebounds, -105 on DraftKings. I do like the odds you get there. You 12.5 rebounds and assists, as I am talking sparklingly about his assist ability this season, +105 if he gets 13 boards and assists there. Like you called it, it's a little bit boring to talk about Mason Plumlee, but I do think that it's worth it because he is, on a team that their backup center rotation is sort of in flummox right now, and against a Toronto team where they allow the most rebounds or 3rd most rebounds per game to centers over their last 3, but really on the season allowing a lot to opposing centers as well, as they don't really have a solid starting center. So it's a good opportunity for a guy who definitely can eat and get some stats when there's he's pretty much the tallest and strongest guy on the floor, because he's also shown a bit of versatility as well. When they did lose to Toronto a couple of nights ago, 21 points, 7 boards, 3 assists in that L. And in his last 7 overall, about 17 a game and 11 boards with 3 assists. So, the only time he actually came up short in that of any of these props was against Memphis, who right now, Jaren Jackson Jr. making a strong case for, Defensive Player of the Year, not to mention Steven Adams getting in there and making things difficult for Plumlee, where he's now not the tallest or strongest guy on the floor, obviously. So this is a much better matchup versus, guys on Toronto who just really hemorrhaged points in the rookie Coloco. And even when Chris Boucher gets out there's really no defensive presence, which is why they struggle in terms of allowing the centers to just dominate the boards on them. So it's a good opportunity for Mason for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he probably weighs more than Boucher and Siakam combined, and Toronto's just
precisely
that. You talk about your turn, my turn. I mean, yeah, their strategy is basically like, yeah, you might get us in the paint a few times, but try to guard these guys with wing skills as a center. But the Hornets are sticking with Plumlee because they don't really care about this season, and he's a nice, solid player who can put those stat lines up. Yeah, I mean, seeing like 12.5 points for him, it's like, yeah, that's pretty easy over for me. I mean, especially with Charlotte coming back from the loss, they should. He had 21 points in a pretty non-competitive game, and that Memphis game you mentioned was a total blowout. As long as they're pretty competitive here tonight, I think he gets over both the points and rebounds.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I'll just put it this way. I would love to have Mason Plumlee as the backup center on the New York Knicks as well. So I think he could definitely bring value there. He's starting for an awful team that doesn't have any other center that you can trust. So you also got to feel good about him getting some pretty big minutes if this game is able to stay a little bit closer. It was close for most of the last game too, which is why he was able to stay in there and get stats until Toronto pulled away at the very end to win by double digits. So anyway, that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we're bringing you these videos each and every weekday this season. Until we see you next, happy betting.